Final Fantasy III, the 3D remake on the DS, came with quite a few quality of life changes over the original. I think the most important one would be the creation of our 4 Warriors of Light, Luneth, Ark, Rafia, and Ingus over the generic Onion Knights hailing from the beginning of the game. Because my mind is filled with video game brain rot at all hours of the day, and I am a writer, I have spent a lot of time thinking about these characters since I made my Final Fantasy III video, which was how long ago? 5 months? Ooh, yikes. I might need a new hobby. Well, we're in too deep now, so this right here is the scene in question. Doga, on his deathbed just before giving us access to Xand and Eureka, defines each of us in one quality. Luneth as courage, Ark as kindness, Rafia as affection, and Ingus as determination. At face value, this is just a throwaway little thing, and it makes sense given the traits we've seen our characters display from the very beginning of the game. I personally think it would be cooler and make more literary sense if some of their words were flipped around in order to showcase the traits they gained over the course of their journey. Luneth starts our tale with courage in spades, and he's impulsive to boot. He's always getting up to trouble, be it intentional or not, and is always seeking an adventure. Throughout the game, Luneth is shown to still offer his services to help others, but is a lot more indifferent to it than, say, Rafia or Ark. It isn't really until Arya that we see Luneth genuinely want to help one of our companions simply for the sake of helping them, and not because it will serve us on our journey. Conversely, Ark is presented as a coward at the beginning of the game. We meet him in originally, where we see him being bullied by 3 boys. Despite his timidness, Ark sets off to the ghost town in Kazis, determined to prove himself strong without Luna's help. The definitive turning point for Ark as a character is the time spent in Saronia with Prince Alice. Much like Luneth with Arya, Alice is the first point in the game in which we acknowledge Ark's cowardice. While walking into Kazis, the ghost town, Ark claims he is unafraid and therefore he is brave. He associates feelings of fear as a direct measure of how brave you are. An apt mindset for a 14-year-old, but as many of us know, fear is an emotional response and cannot simply be abolished no matter how brave you are. Alice is presented in a similar way to Ark. He's timid, but he's kind. He wants to do his best for his people and for the world. The only difference is Alice acknowledges the fact that he is afraid of the change in his father, and he still stands up against him anyways. This moment is when Ark realizes that Alice, and himself by association, are brave. Not because they weren't afraid, but because they pushed through it. Also, quick little side note, as Ark begins to realize this, Luneth is seen to be not really mocking him maliciously, but kind of snorting a little at his ideals, and Ingus actually does reprimand him for it, which I think is pretty cool. This whole arc is why I think Ark is the best character in the game, and also why I think that he should have been the light of courage. Because it took the entire game and outside forces for him to realize what courage meant for him, and for him to face his fears. And I think the real definition of being brave or courageous is how much you're able to face your fears in spite of being afraid, rather than how little you feel fear. The other one that I have a little bit of a gripe with is Ingus. I feel like calling him the Light of Determination is a bit of a cop-out, seeing as the label would apply to all of them. And I feel like the more on-the-nose one would have been the Light of Chivalry. However, I feel like Light of Affection would more aptly apply to him. Ingus is presented as a very cold character throughout the game. He was raised a royal knight and has the mannerisms to go along with that title. We see at the beginning of the game that Ingus is pretty reserved around our party, but in particular isn't a huge fan of Luneth. I think that might just be because they're a bit too similar. Also, outside of Princess Sarah, who Ingus is sworn to protect and has a huge obvious crush on, Ingus doesn't have a companion that he bonds with, which leads me to believe that Ingus has trouble connecting with people on a more personal level. That's why I think him coming to bond with Luneth is so important to his character, and Ingus saving him in the opening movie will never not make me smile. I haven't mentioned Rafia yet, but I believe that is because Rafia is the most stagnant character out of the four of them. She starts the journey as an impatient, impulsive, but caring young girl who doesn't want to be a blacksmith, and ends it the exact same way. Perhaps Light of Determination would fit for her. Really quick little side tangent, back in the day, when I was but a wee little bean, it always made me really happy that Rafia could be a fighter if you wanted her to be, rather than relegating her to the white mage role. I always did it anyway, because Rafia has the highest spirit stat, so it made the most sense. But as a kid, I liked the idea of having a female character be a warrior for a change. And building on that, when I played World of Final Fantasy for the first time, I was a little miffed that Rafia had a white mage build for her skill deck. Again, it made sense based off of her stats, but it was just kind of one of those things where it would have been cool if she hadn't been given the mage treatment. In conclusion, I think when focusing on the four Warriors of Light, or really any hero in a story, it's more impactful to look at the traits they developed on their journey rather than the ones they had from the get-go. With that, I bid you good night. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.